Oh, you're just doing the head start?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought she was already.
We have everybody, Dr. Wilson?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. Okay, calling this, see if my microphone's on, calling this meeting to order. Today, it's 6:01 PM at October 13th, is that right? Okay, and our governing board meeting. So I am going to give the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stick on yourself.
I called it myself. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. So let's go to item 3, minutes. I have a motion.
Madam President, move the approval of the September 22nd, 2025 minutes, and note that there is a correction that our marvelous staff has pointed out, and it's 6A through H on the consent agenda rather than 6A through J in the title.
Thank you, Mr. Hobson. I will second that. Any other changes or discussion on that? Okay, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 4, call to public. I am going to guess no.
No, ma'am.
Sit in the dark.
Get to sit in the dark tonight. All right, item 5, consent agenda items. This is A through J.
Madam President, I move the approval of items 5A through J of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any
I do have
discussion?
one question though. On I, would you tell me about the
The Diamond sponsorship?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is part of our apprenticeship program, Opportunity Paid Up, the grant that we received for the apprenticeship, and the goal behind it is to have a very visible table at the event so that we can work with business and industry to attract more opportunities for our students to become apprentices or apprenticeships in.
and the money's coming from
The grant.
the grant? Okay. It's not take, no, never mind.
Any other discussions? Okay, did we get that a second? Did we get that seconded?
Yes.
We did, okay. Okay, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Let's do item 6A and B, personnel. Is there a motion?
Madam President, move the approval of items 6A and B of the personnel agenda.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 7, which is information and discussion, policy revision. So Mr. Colbell.
Thank you, Madam President. The first one is a new policy for reporting information technology-related incidents. I'd like to thank Mr. Maddox for drafting this for me, because I wouldn't have understood it otherwise. This is to alert us on it as fast as possible when there's in case there's any unlikely event, another cybersecurity breach, so that we can remedy it and address it as quickly as possible. And along with that, there's a regulation which doesn't need your board approval, but which we will not adopt if you don't adopt the policy.
Okay.
Second one is, substitute teacher pay. Because the statute requires us to calculate sick leave on an hourly basis, the old policy was doing it on half-day, was paying them on half-day with regards to how many hours they worked. So that wasn't consistent with the statute. And I'd like to thank Dina Cerna for calling that to my attention, because that had escaped my notice when the statute changed. And the last one is the one on alcohol use at community events. That and the accompanying regulation, which we will again not adopt unless you adopt the policy. And I ran that by the trust, and they said they didn't have any issue with it as long as it was an appropriate indemnification agreement. I found one other school district that has a policy that allows alcohol use at community events. Most don't, I think, just because they don't have the facilities to do it. So I compared it to Maricopa Community College policy, and they have a similar policy.
What district was that?
Balls School District, B-A-L-S-Z.
Phoenix.
They're the only ones that have them.
That's interesting.
And these are up for approval in next meeting?
Correct.
Yeah, they have to have 2 readings before we can vote.
Madam President, could I speak to the policy in terms of the opportunity or ability to sell liquor? I know there was some discussion the last time we were together and some things that you wanted us to pursue over the last couple of weeks. So I just want to give you our feedback on what we kind of did over the last couple of weeks. I know one of the concerns is to make sure that parents are informed. And that students have the right to opt out if this is an area that they're not comfortable or their parents aren't comfortable with them being in. And so part of what we will do in not only this process, but moving forward if the policy is approved, is to have an opt-out provision so that if there's any parent or child that feels like this isn't appropriate for them, that they would in fact be able to opt out of that event and not be penalized for it. We also believe that there's value in having the third party provide additional security. I don't know that this is necessary in this particular event that we're talking about because this is Mesa SWAT. So I'm not so sure that we need additional security with Mesa SWAT here. But moving forward, if we have another event, it seems fair to believe that it shouldn't fall on our security should there be an issue with alcohol, that they need to have their own security. And also how many have we had, right? So there have been 2 different events that have come to us that have walked away because we couldn't provide alcohol. But I can tell you there's a third entity that would be interested in having an event here if there were alcohol, as well as I'm sure more because, we've done weddings before, but the weddings didn't have alcohol. And that's okay, the weddings were great, but I know there were other weddings or will be other weddings that would potentially want that same opportunity as long as alcohol can be provided. So part of what you would ask us to do is to make sure that there's some opportunity for the students or the parents to opt out, to find out if there are any other schools or school districts that have that policy, to make sure that there's enough liability within the insurance, which there is. Also to make sure that students and parents have the ability to, like I said, opt out. And then it was our thought process that it would make sense to have as a requirement additional security so that it didn't fall on our nighttime security should there be an event that's held here that does serve alcohol. And obviously the events would only be done at night when our students aren't here on campus. Mr. Lane?
Is there a way to make a provision where we could revisit the issue after a year?
100%.
It's worth going forward with?
100%.
Something that will happen automatically, just not depend on us to remember.
Yeah, in fact, what I would suggest is that you guys have fortunately, for me, delegated the authority for me to approve events, but any event that has alcohol related to it, I think, come to you. So that you're approving it as it's occurring, and there may be some that you don't feel comfortable with and others that you do, and you have a right to make that decision. But to your point, that we can pull it, wrap it, and a report back to you at the end of the year and talk about how it went, the highs and the lows.
Yeah, maybe do a sunset on it, and then we have to reapprove it.
Sure.
You want to go
Yeah.
forward in a year?
Yeah.
Consistent maybe with what Mr. Lane is suggesting, Madam President, I guess I'd like to have a report from you the first time we do it, and maybe,
Yeah.
I think this is a responsible thing to do, but I am also a little concerned that we not offend people who for whom this is really a hard lift.
Yep.
And I think it's irresponsible for us to sort of bury our heads and pretend like this isn't part of the real world. But I was looking at the restrictions that the policy Mr. Kilble suggested, and I think that's pretty stark. No student, regardless of age, may serve, distribute, purchase, or otherwise have any contact. And the alcohol has to be physically segregated from the kitchen. And so I think we're acting responsibly. But I guess I would like along with Mr. Lane's suggestion, I would like the early report and
Sure.
maybe a regular report.
Yeah, we can do it if the policy is approved, then the first event would be towards the latter part of November with the Mesa SWAT, and after that event, we can report back the goods and the bads of it. And then, like I said, I think in a situation like this, it's fair to come to you and approve those activities and events that might occur that we are serving alcohol. As you see in the policy, for the third party to receive the liquor license, that's a pretty long window, right? So there's enough window in there for you all to be able to be aware of what event is potentially going to be on your campus and make a determination whether that's the right event for the institution. But we can report back after the first event, and then Mr. Lane, certainly we can do a report at the end of the year as well.
Now, if we went down the road of approving this event and not the other, do we open ourselves up for any exposure legal-wise for discrimination, or for lack of a better word?
So I'm not a lawyer, although I play one on television, but what I would suggest is I think there are certain organizations that you wouldn't want here independent of the alcohol, right? I mean, there are probably some entities that just aren't in the best interest of the organization.
Right.
And I think it would be those conversations, not that you just have an objection to the alcohol being served, but potentially the organization in and of itself isn't an
Probably need to
organization.
leave the alcohol issue out of that discussion
Correct,
then.
correct.
Okay. But
So-
I
so-
definitely want to revisit it this time next year.
So if there's exotic dancing, there won't be any alcohol served.
That might be one that's not in the best interest of the organization.
No, I think we
Depends on
definitely
if
should
it fits with
revisit.
fashion curriculum or not.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Wilson and staff, you have always, I feel like, since I've been here, you've been very forthcoming with events and the changes such as Hope Tech and Paul Revere, which were new. You've been very forthcoming and shared all information of things going on. So I would simply expect that you follow the same thing.
Well, I
you know,
appreciate that.
Which is what you've offered to do.
Well, I think, Madam President, you also made a suggestion when we talked about this the other day, which I think is a wonderful suggestion, that, we have law and public safety as a program. Is there the possibility that we can get some of our students from law and public safety to also be around the security? I mean, one of the things we always look at organizationally is, can we cross-curricular the opportunity of learning so that it is more of a real-world, real-life situation? And certainly, we have a robust number of programs that potentially can do that. We probably won't look to do that this first one, just because we're trying to get it figured out ourselves. But as we grow into it, I certainly think there's a possibility to do that. And we do that right now. I mean, when we have breakfasts and events and things like that, we have our law and public safety sometimes does the traffic and things, so it's not unheard of, and we can just expand that as well.
I would love to expand that as much as possible because, we have barbering and esthetician and Cosmo, and so that's a natural where people are going to come to you. But these other ones, the welding and the electrician and whatever, that any chance we can give those kids
Sure.
to give that real world hands-on would be
Yeah.
great. So, construction, frankly, I hope they did the sandbags. That would have been a good start. Like, this is real work for y'all.
That was a Herculean task, yes.
Oh, man. Okay, so we look forward to those reports next meeting. So, okay. Item 8, action items. Item AB, student school calendar and annual financial report. So let's do 8A first, please. I'd like a motion.
Madam President, I move that we approve item 8A in the agenda, the SY 26-27 student school calendar.
I second that, Madam President.
I have a question. There are 4 different dates when we would have a board meeting when school's not in session, or it's out, or a holiday. If you look at the second and fourth thing, there are 4 different ones. Does that mean we're not going to have a meeting on those days?
Well, it's
the
like
first
today,
day of school?
there's no school
Sometimes
today.
we do, sometimes we don't.
I mean, there's sometimes, we have the pleasure of meeting with you when school's not in session regularly. And so what I want to make sure is I don't think there's any holidays that we have a board meeting on.
Like today, there's no school, and you guys are all
Correct.
schlepped on in here. Thank you.
Well, you're
Doing our
definitely not going to
community
do the one
duty.
on December 28th.
Maybe.
No, probably not. The what? Usually only has one. And there may be some that we pull off. I know that our calendars, many of us on those calendars actually work, I don't think the 28th, but I think work a lot of the days that historically we haven't worked.
That's going to be tough on you, the first one. The second meeting in July, first day of school.
And it may be that we come to you and say that just as, like we did this year. I think we had a meeting scheduled and it didn't make sense, and so we pulled it off.
Well, we have to do our finance all,
10-day count.
and we have to do one in July, later in July to approve our budget.
We do it in June, and then the second one's,
Well, you usually have that done way before then, hopefully.
And we'll have it June, and do we have to also approve it in July too?
I think we can work it out.
Depends on the
Closer we get to-
legislature.
And as a reminder, this, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, I think you guys actually approved this calendar last board meeting. The unfortunate thing was there wasn't a second to the motion. And so we brought this back to make sure that we actually did it first and second.
Okay, we do have a first and second today, so.
Yes.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, please call for the vote.
all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Motion carries.
It's official, thank you. Is there a motion for item 8B, our annual financial report?
I make a motion that we accept item 8B, the annual financial report for fiscal year 24-25.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion, or actually, Mrs. Perez?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I do have a quick overview of the forms you have in front of you for approval. The first is basically the annual financial report is a summary of all revenue and expenses that occurred during the last fiscal year, which was July 1st of 24 through June 30th of this year, 2025. When you look at at the revenue, we had approximately 97 million in revenue. The majority of it, as you can see, 66% coming from into our M&O, with 15% going into unrestricted capital, and that's the revenue that comes in from state equalization and property taxes. We also had the classroom site fund at 4.2 million. We have federal and state grants, our adult education that brought in 4.2 million, a little bit, well, close to 4.3. And then any special revenue funds, which basically is the rest of the funds. We have about 70 funds altogether with an additional, I'd say maybe an additional 60 to 70 sub-funds within our auxiliary and activities operations. But into the AFR, they all roll up into the required fund that the state requires us to report under. As far as the expenditures goes, 114 million overall for the last year. As you can see, 59% majority of the funds expenses were under the maintenance and operation, followed by unrestricted capital, which primarily was due to our remodel here at the main campus, with the remaining ones being under the classroom site fund, which covers our 20% of our base salaries for our instructors, along with the performance and incentive pays for the instructor certified staff. We also then have the federal and state grants, again, the adult education, and then all the other funds as I stated. This is just a visual for you to see where all the expenses come from, and I really can't see from here, so I do apologize for that. But as you can see, 59% of it, if I'm reading this correctly, is basically the maintenance and operations fund. So again, this is just a visual for you to see the breakdown of all the expenses. But because of the 59% being our largest, I like to always break it down into giving you a little bit more of a high level for the M&O, which was 67 million. Out of that, 57% of it goes to our satellite payments. So it's important to know that the rest is the main campus operational, but 57% is the pass-through to the satellites.
So, excuse me, if I can pause here, just, I'd like to highlight the fact that, based on some back of the envelope math, that means we passed through about $38 million to satellite programs last year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a great question, Mr. Boyle. And can I ask a follow-up to that? So when you do your AFR, we're responsible for reporting on all of the dollars generated to us as an organization. And then we report on how we then utilize those dollars, whether it's through salaries and benefits or it's the pass-through.
Correct.
But the money that comes to us is money that's generated to EVIT as a CTED, and then we disperse it based on however we have chosen to disperse it, whether it be salaries and benefits or in the satellite payments through whatever negotiation was in the IGA.
Correct.
Interesting. Thanks.
So because we have unresolved issues with a lot of IGAs, what does that mean about that? Is that projected, assuming that we're going to get IGAs lined up?
So this is for last year, so this is
sorry.
actual expenses.
Of course, sorry.
But that's a fair question, Mr. Hobson, moving forward. I think that's a fair question moving forward.
First payments this month.
Again, just to give you the operational side minus the satellites, we have the instructional about 37.8%. went to the instructional, 17.6 of all expenses went to support services, 10.2 went to administration, 13.7 central services, and 20.7 went to plant operations.
So, I'm so sorry. Can you go back again? So, the question that you asked, Mr. Boyle, can you ask that again?
Yep, so I was just double checking my math there, that approximately $38 million of that M&O expenditure was passed through to the partner districts,
Which equates to, what's that percentage?
which is 57% of the M&O.
57% of our budget is actually monies that gets passed through back to our member districts.
Correct. Of the M&O budget, yes.
Of the M&O, yeah. Okay, thanks.
So I went down the expenses. Any questions on just the breakdown of the central campus operations?
Are these percentages fairly consistent over the last 5 to 10 years?
I do have a slide that gives you those numbers.
They're amazing.
But I do want to note on this slide, if we could go back, I'm sorry, Ms. Perez, but noting that in the one fiscal year from fiscal 22 to fiscal 25, that the percent of M&O at EVIT central campuses that went towards administration decreased from 12% to 10.2%. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That was the thing that I was excited
What-
about. That-
What accounts for that?
Yes, can you give us a little more details? 'Cause
Is
that's-
what accounts into the,
Yes.
so under administration, the way we code is based on what the USFR, the Chart of Accounts, that we're required to code the expenses to. In this particular administration, there is functions such as executive administration as well as school administration. But not in, when we were talking about administration, we're not talking about leadership necessarily. We're also talking about your school secretary, your receptionist, a number of support, your executive assistant, Tammy. So it's everything that's in support of that executive level, as well as your school administration level.
So it's not as exciting as I thought. It's like title changes is really, would you say?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think it's partly that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Perez. I think one of the things that you all have done over the past years, which I appreciate immensely, and we've said it before, is that you really looked to provide more competitive salaries for all of our staff, right? The vast majority of our staff aren't administration. And so as we have grown the organization, too, we've added administration, but we've also added significantly more teachers. I think when I became the superintendent here, what would you guess in terms of instructional staff?
Maybe 80, I think.
And what instructional staff are we at? Would you guys know?
Oh, my goodness, 182, I believe.
Right, so I mean, there's been a significant number of instructional staff that we've added as well. So if you're adding more in compensation and you're adding a larger number to the largest pie, proportionally, that number is going to be larger than the administration. So it's a function potentially of coding it correctly, but it's also a function of the work that I believe that you guys have done to allow us to hire more staff, instructional staff, non-administrative staff, and to pay better than we've ever paid before.
Well, and I just want to be clear, we've, you have a model of trying to be clear and not be excessive in terms of administrative expenses, but this has been an increasingly larger organization. And one of my concerns is that we not shortchange our administration, services, because it's a considerably larger operation than when I first showed up here 5 years ago, so.
It is, and we've added administrative positions as well. And so, we've said this, that, when we add our next associates, we're going to have an administrative position that is hired before we have the robust number of staff. And so oftentimes what we see is we take a step up in the percentage of administration as we're growing programs, and then as we start staffing them, because enrollment necessitates the staff, then it levels itself back up. So it's almost a step up to a step back, a step up to a step back, but we're growing administration as well as the instructional staff. Now, I will tell you, there's probably going to become a point in time in which we come back to you and say, we are going to need some more administrative staff, specifically in the area of finance. As we've talked about some of the work that we're going to have to do in order to make sure that we're being compliant with the recommendations from the Auditor General, that's going to require more administrative services than what we currently have. And so we'll come back to you then and say, we need this position or these positions in order to do the job that we have to do to be compliant with the Auditor General and the statute.
That's actually one of the areas I was specifically concerned about, because I think that what we're being called to do is more than we've been doing. And
100%.
I just can't believe Ms. Perez she can do amazing things, but she needs help lots of times.
Yeah, no, and she does amazing work, and we've had this conversation. What we're going to be tasked to do is a full-time position in addition to her role, not her picking up that full-time role in addition to her role.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? So 10% is typically what is average for what administrative costs are for public school districts. So we are within that realm, and that's great. But I think the other thing that we need to be aware of is that for compliance purposes and for accountability purposes and for transparency purposes, when you add a position to an administrative level, it's an ROI, it's a return on investment. Because when you place an educated and professional and experienced individual into the business office, for example, or out on the school side, whatever you want to call it, then you have an additional set of eyes that will keep the district from being possibly picked on or have issues, and those issues can be mitigated before they possibly become an issue.
Yes.
So in my estimation, and maybe I'm a little biased here, but administration is a return on investment. So that way it prevents issues from going on later on. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Oh, and can I give an example of that? Last year, you did approve an assistant CFO, and I do have some corrections, data corrections that, that we identified through the assistance of having those checks and balances of doing that. So I'll go over those in a second here. This gives you the maintenance and operation history. I gave you 5 years of history here. You have, and I broke it down by the major categories, your salaries, benefits, satellite payments, purchase services, supplies, and other. One of the things that I do want to highlight here in your salaries and benefits, where you see a large increase between fiscal year 24 and 25, is that in fiscal year 24, that was the last year of COVID funds, and we had a lot of positions that, due to the increase, we had added positions, and now, because of the growth in our student population, we didn't necessarily just get rid of those positions. We then transfer those positions to being funded under M&O. An increase again here in the satellite payments, and then increases in the purchase services and supplies.
So can I just, go ahead, Mr. Williams.
I would like to call our attention to the fact that not only have we, over the past 5 years, increased salaries for our own team at a pretty substantial amount here on the central campuses, we've also increased satellite payments to the partner districts by $14 million since 2021.
Correct. Just more, yeah. I have a question that, is germane to all of this, but it's back on that pie chart page. But we don't necessarily have to go there. My question, and this is putting both of you on the spot, that we're giving, oh, look how fast you are. Thank you. 57% satellite payments. What do the other CTEDs give? Do we know off the top of our head what percentage of their M&O is going to these satellite programs? And I should have asked you this before this meeting.
That's actually a really good question. I think we can probably figure it out. What we do know, at least for the two CTEDs that are comparable to us in size, is the percent that they pass back through, right? So the ADM is generated, what is that percent that's passed back through? Yeah. That percent is most likely going to be, most likely be significantly less.
Yes.
Because they pass back through significantly less based on the percentage in the IGA.
Right, I just see a consistent, consistent form that, we're giving more money to our satellites than any other district in the state.
not just in number, but in, obviously in the
Exactly,
percent, the
yes,
percent of the
yes.
overall budget.
In all
Yeah,
measurable metrics, I
exactly.
guess we could say, so, thank you.
Just from again, this is an overview of all of the revenue and expenses. But on the form, before you do approve, there is just some corrections under the summary form, which is page 6 of the AFR. And I'd just like to bring to your attention, under line 1, which is regarding the instructional improvement, I didn't realize that the a budgeted amount, which was part of the budget that you approved back in May, for the budget revision, that number didn't transfer over into the form, so I just want to highlight that that number is $732,983. Then under auxiliary operations, line item 8, which is Fund 525, the beginning balance, instead of 972,313, is 971,267, which then brings the ending balance to 2,414,881. Then line item, row 35, student activities, beginning balance on the report is 156,843. The correct number should be 153,508, bringing that ending balance to 164,329. Last item on here is at the very bottom under 900, intergovernmental agreements, Fund 955. Line 2, the actual expenses are listed. There is 158,474. It should be 158,174.
So do we need to either amend our motions or amend anything to reflect those?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can I just ask another question before you do that? Or do you want to do that first, and that's my question? while it's
Let's
still
do that
fresh?
first so
Yeah,
we don't
let's-
forget.
yeah, Gotcha, that's fair.
I move to amend the motion to reflect Ms. Perez's adjustments.
I'll second that. Does that work? Does that work? Okay. Okay.
Do we need to vote on that?
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, this is about to amend the motion, yes.
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay.
The motion has been amended.
Okay. So can I ask one more question? I'm sorry, can you go back to the pie graph again? I love that pie graph. So the 57%, so we passed that through, is it quarterly?
We pass that on a quarterly basis.
On a quarterly
yes.
basis. And the first quarter that we pass through is generated, in all quarters that we pass through, the money is passed through based on ADE releasing the money to us, and then we process it and release it out to the sending district, our membership districts, right?
Correct.
That first payment that happens, it doesn't happen until after the start of the school year, correct?
Correct.
Meaning that we don't get funded from ADE to pass back through until September or October.
Right, so in the IGA historically has been that the payments are due to the school districts by September 15th for 25% of those payments. Well, we do not get 25% of the funds until, in some cases, until the end of September, but in other cases, if the districts do have issues with their data reporting, it basically is until that data has been cleared.
So I share that because I think there sometimes is a misunderstanding that when we pass it through, that we hold it, or we're negligent in passing it through, or we're delayed in passing it through. That isn't the case, especially on that first quarter payment. We can't pass it through until we get the money sent to us from ADE, which isn't until September or October. Rightfully so, member districts have to pay their teachers from July and August. So there is some funding deficit that's there, but not because of negligence on the part of EVIT. It's the structure in which we're funded through by ADE. Is that correct?
Correct. And then I also want to add that historically, in that first quarter payment, the way schools are funded is there is a substantial amount that's held back, which is a payment that's not given to the school districts until July. And we historically have paid the 25% of all their funding, and we're not holding back that amount, even though EVIT is not receiving that until July.
So we're paying ahead of us actually getting the funds.
Correct. We're paying more than.
Then, yes,
Correct.
that's a better way to say it, thank you. And then, I know you have a question, but this is just a quick question. There's not a set date when ADE gives us those funds? It sounds like it's kind of a fluid window, and what are some of the causes that make it so fluid? If
So there is a set date. They do pay on the 22nd of each month. Now, in the past, it used to be different, and when the IGAs were created, I don't know that in our last IGA, we had that date so defined at the state level, but now we usually get the payment until like the 22nd is when the data is released to us as far as what we're getting funded. And so in that September payment, though, it's also important to note that that is student-level data submission that would have taken place prior to August 15th. And so again, that is also one of the reasons why we do have a lot of districts that struggle, because depending on when they started and also when they submitted that data to ADE, it depends on that generating. So a lot of times, it's not until our October or November when we actually see a like a makeup payment from the state, because a lot of our districts at times do have data submission issues.
Thank you very much.
So, Madam President, so we're sort of acting as a bank for folks that we're passing money through. We haven't received the money, but we're taking it from some fund and advancing it. It makes me a little uncomfortable.
Moving forward, we'll change that.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is, I think that our IGA agreements ought to reflect that we can't pay until we have money in hand. I mean, lawyers manage trust accounts, and you got to be always careful that the money that you have in your trust account is not money that you dip into for other purposes. It's for that's the concern I have with what you've described. So, your lawyer may tell you that I'm crazy and wrong about that, and that's all right. But I guess I would encourage us to be careful that we don't pay money through that we don't yet have in hand, because I don't think we should be. We shouldn't be being a bank to anybody.
Well, and I think if we remember, part of what we've offered in our draft IGAs is that 596 account carry forward at the member district, carrying with it 25% of, so that they would have dollars in their account at their local level to pay until it gets caught up, right?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And so I bring this issue up because I do think that it's important to understand that at times, I think Ms. Perez and EVIT get faulted for not timely payments. And sometimes it's on us, and we'll own that. But many times it's not. It's due to the functions that she just described. But in order to offset that, part of what we did suggest was in that 596 account, that there is a percentage agreed upon that can be carried forward to do exactly what needs to be done in terms of being able to pay bills before the dollars are actually flowing the way they could be flowing or should be flowing once the data correction is done at both the central and the local level.
And we should be telling the districts that we're authorizing you to use some of the money that's our money that you're holding for this purpose at this point. I mean, it's a way of making clear to the districts so that they understand that money is not in their general fund.
Correct.
And another example is one of our school districts this past year, we didn't receive any funding for them. Obviously, we didn't pass any funding to them because of that until the recalculation adjustment was done. This past September is when the funding came through.
I have a separate question. Can we please go back to, I think it was the slide after the title slide? So if I'm just looking at this without having any background knowledge, I might be very concerned that our revenues were significantly lower than our expenditures were for the prior fiscal year. But it also seems to me that the delta between the revenues and expenditures is mostly made up from the change in unrestricted capital expenditures, which I believe you already mentioned, but just to reiterate, was related to the, renovation of the entire campus and had already been authorized by this governing board.
Correct. And there was fund balance in that fund to be able to offset that cost.
And it still has, if I'm not mistaken, a pretty significant positive fund balance in the unrestricted capital, meaning that we can still move forward with further renovations as needed.
Correct.
Cool, thank you.
All done? Okay, any further questions? Can we get a copy of all of these slides, please?
Absolutely.
I just want to say, I think it's really, really important that we take the amount of time that we did. This is a $140 million enterprise, $114 million enterprise. And so just think the conversation and the questions are helpful. So thank you very much to Ms. President and Administration for gathering this.
And I'm also amazed by our staff that goes back through and finds errors of the tiniest amount and makes it correct. So I really do appreciate that, Ms. Perez. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was very informative and appreciated. So we have a motion and a second, correct? And now we just need to vote on 8B. Please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we are on item 9, call for executive session, and I'll make the motion that we go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Please call the vote.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Madam President, members of the governing board, we can probably just stay here. I don't think that the topic is, in the dark. I mean, this is a secluded, and I don't anticipate it being significantly longer. We're just going to have to ask a couple folks to step out for a few minutes, and then you can sit.
We have
Awesome. Okay, we are back in session at 6:49 PM, and is there a motion for item 9?
I'll move that.
Or 10, excuse me, we're item 10.
Item 10, motion to direct the district council to proceed as discussed in executive session.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, please call the vote by acclamation.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 11, staff reports. Dr. Wilson?
Madam President, members of the governing board, just a couple quick, three quick things. First, just as an update, I believe it was maybe 3 weeks ago now, I'd have to go back and look, but we provided our member districts the most recent draft IGA that we had been working on and through. We've not heard from them, although we were communicated that it might take a bit of time for a response because of fall break, so it's not unexpected that we hadn't heard from them, but our hope is that we hear from them sooner rather than later, so that we can continue to move forward to try to get a resolution on the IGA, so we can move forward in a direction that allows us to provide opportunities not only at the central and satellite campus that are good for kids, but we haven't heard anything from them yet, so I'll update you when we do. Secondly, I'd like to just say thank you to two different departments. The first department is the facilities department. As you guys have experienced, I'm assuming because you've been around for the last couple of weeks, the valley got more rain in the last 8 days than I think we've gotten in an 8-day period like ever. And that has caused lots of flooding across the state, across the valley, but also on our campuses. I mean, that creates issues on our campuses. And so, we had both Mark Howard and Mr. Bernasek and both their crews had worked really, really hard the last 2 weeks. Building 3 had flooded, Building 1 had some water, and the Power Campus had, our parking, and they have just been really, really diligent in being here on the weekends, on off hours, trying to protect the asset, but also trying to make sure that we're ready to open our doors tomorrow, and I just want to thank them for the work that they did. And also to Ms. Perez and her department, she just went through the AFR, and it was funny because I was out of the office for a couple days last week, Counselor was out of the office a couple days last week, Dr. Doom was out of the office for a couple days last week, and Ms. Perez was there all alone. And so I texted her, I said, hey, how's it going? And she's like, it is glorious not having anybody here, because all she was doing was just crunching numbers. But I do know that it took a lot of time out of her life, personally and professionally, as well as those in her department. So thank you. That's not an easy task to try to pull together. So waiting on the response from the most recent draft IGA. Much appreciation to facilities for the work they've done, and to our business department for getting us across the AFR finish line. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you. Okay, our next meeting is October 27th. And now we come to item 12B, adjournment.
Madam President, I move that we adjourn.
Mr. Covington, you were.
Got him. I'm proud he did it.
Well, I second.
Second, call the vote, please.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Hey,
Dr. Wilson?
Yeah.
Do you